Hey, welcome to Gold Scratch. So, as you can see, we're not at Gold Scratch today. We're at Daryl Waters' Dyno service in Springfield, Ontario. Daryl's got his Gold Scratch cup, so you already know him as well. So, I got Bill Little with me, and Bill's been on some of my videos before. Every time I do, I get comments saying we want to see Bill on more of your videos, so we got him back today. And I got Tim Blyde here. Tim is the owner of this engine. And so dyno videos are some of my most popular videos. So if you like my 400 horsepower dyno videos, you're going to love this 800 horsepower dyno video. And we're going to have Bill talk a little bit about, I mentioned the slide rule in the past. And so he's got a slide rule for drag racers. He's going to give a little demo on that. And Tim is the owner of the engine now and drag racing car. He's going to talk about that. So when we get into that, we'll cover all that stuff off and give a little description of the engine. This engine, just by the way, quickly, belonged to a good friend of mine, Frank Van de Peer, and Frank's been in some of my videos too. He wanted to be here today, but he couldn't. And so Bill's going to do all the work today, so I'm going to watch the master at work, squeezing out the last horsepower. I feel like I'm kind of on holiday today. I'm just watching. I got no pressure and just a narrator. So first of all, let's have Bill talk about his slide rule a little bit, and Alec will cover that off for us.
Hi guys, this is a power speed calculator, and Moroso makes it. I think they're about $35. It's really handy to have in your toolbox. You don't have to plug it in. You can tell people's horsepower by how fast they go if you know the weight of their car, or if you know the horsepower, you can see if they're really telling you the truth. So I'm going to put my engine in here. So at the Dutch Classic that we just raced at, my car ran a 1010. So we're going to so this is a quarter mile ET right here. So we're going to put that at 1010. And then we're going to go up here to the weight of the car, which is 3140 or 3130. So we're going to go, so there's 31. We'll go 40, so that's about 550, 560 horsepower. So the car ran 1010 at that horsepower, and the mile an hour says 132 mile an hour. Now we had a headwind, so I only ran 130 mile an hour. But on the dyno, on Daryl's dyno, the engine made 597 horse at sea level. And so that 560 horse at 1,700 feet is probably really close. So this dyno reads what this slide rule says. If you want to know what RPM you're going through at, so I was going through at 8,500 RPM. So we're going to take that 132 mile an hour, and we're going to go down to the bottom here. You have your tire diameter, so I'm going to put the mile an hour at the tire diameter, which is 31 inches, 132 mile an hour. I have a 567 gear, so there's 5.5, 5.6. So that would have put me through about 8,100, I guess. Now the torque converter slip is roughly 2 to 3%. So that's my 8,500 right there. So if you know the gear ratio or the RPM you're going through at, or the speed, you can figure anything out. It also shows you the power to weight ratio, which is pretty handy to have. So I'm going to turn this over, and you also have a bore and stroke chart that'll give you your cubic inch displacement. So if you have a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder, and it also shows you compression ratio if you know the volume at top dead center. So this is a really handy thing to have in your toolbox. So I would recommend anybody that's serious to get one of these, even before you start an engine build. It would be good to know how much gear you need, how much converter you need, how much tire you need to run a certain RPM or a certain ET. So that's pretty much it for that. So
Perfect, thanks, Bill. So I often talk about designing your engine. That's basically designing your car and your engine.
Exactly,
Together,
Alex.
right? So,
Ellen, yep.
so Daryl's in charge of the dyno again, of course. Everybody knows him. He's a rock star on Gold's Garage already. So Tim, I'll let Tim talk a little bit about the engine, his drag racing car, what he's going to do with it. We just got it warmed up now, so as soon as we get this clip done, before I forget, please like and subscribe. If you do that, if YouTube thinks somebody likes my videos and they send it to somebody else, subscribers are why we make videos, and without them, with them, we're motivated to make better videos. So please do that for me. And so Tim, let me turn it over to you and tell us a bit about your car and the engine. So.
Thanks, Alan. So as you said, this this motor actually used to was in a C6 early 2000s Corvette that was owned by Frank Vanderpeer. The car did some runs down in Toronto and unfortunately got into an accident. I bought the drivetrain motor tranny converter. We're going to do some tests today, make sure it's set up right, jetted, timed, all that good stuff. It's going to go into a 1979 Malibu, which is a back half car, big tire car. Right now that car's got a small block in it. Cars ran a best of a 617, and we're hoping to see maybe if I can get it into the 5s. We'll see what happens here. Yeah, it's a 565 big block Chev, big end block. Yeah, well.
Okay, thanks Tim, good job. Okay, we're going to shut it down now. That's a clip for now. We're going to get her warmed up and make a pull, and we'll have lots more as we go through the process, watching Bill squeezing horsepower out of it. Okay, it's going to be our first run from inside the cell, so we had to do a little dyno repair. We're back in business again, and Daryl's in charge. Go ahead, Daryl.
Like we're 906. Awesome. Yeah, the oil's cold though, so.
So 906 horsepower on that run, 741 torque, 742 torque. So we actually made 930 on the last run. The engine's been sitting, cooled down a little bit for an hour or two here. So anyway, we're going to make more pulls yet. So 930 is not good enough. Tim's getting greedy now. He wants even more. So let's see what happens next.
What's the airflow? 1262. No, what was the airflow on that one?
1263. They're using the same air. Yeah, we have 14.1, and now you're down to 13.6.
Yeah.
Air fuel, so I'm happy
I
with
think
that.
we're gonna leave the fuel alone. We're gonna get it. Maybe we'll make one more pull
Yeah,
to
because
heat the oil up, and then we'll do some timing. And then
Yeah, we haven't even moved the timing yet.
no,
eh?
no,
Yeah,
I
good
haven't.
point.
No,
Yeah, still
that's gonna be
35
different.
degrees.
we got fuel where we're happy with, so we can throw some timing in it. We'll do one more run.
We'll see it make some torque.
I'm going to mark this where it was so we don't get lost. Loosen this back off again. when we're done this, we'll check it with a timing light and see what the timing actually is.
Well, we're gonna end up close to 40 degrees probably, or?
Yeah, probably 38, I would guess. Usually 38, 39 maybe. So,
Mark on that balancer, 38.
was there?
It was.
All right, so we're fine for clearance there. Now, we don't really know if somebody really checked top dead center before, right? So is that top dead center accurate? We don't know this.
Throwing darts at a board.
So, but anyway, we'll end up with whatever it says is what you're going to run it at. So, yeah.
So we do this next one, see if it made more or less power. If it made less, then maybe we drop it back, and then is that when we mess with the cam timing a little?
That we're going to move the cam timing a couple degrees, and
See if that does it.
yep, we're going to retard it 2 degrees. So.
Well, the
try
beauty
it.
of a belt drive is you can do the cam timing without taking anything apart.
That's
right?
nice.
Great
Yep,
on
we
the
can
outside of the
do
boat,
that
right?
in 5 minutes almost.
Do the belt drive.
Yep. There's timing marks on the belt drive. So this is the center part of the belt drive, and the outer sprocket
Yeah.
is the outside part. And there's
Goes off.
there's slots in here with 4 bolts, and we loosen the bolts, and then we can turn the crank slightly. There's timing marks in here we'll have to find, and then we tighten them up, and away you go. You know.
Okay, cool.
So who knows why they advanced it 5 degrees before? There was a lot wrong with this engine to start with, so I'm guessing that wasn't where it was supposed to be either.
Well, for a drag race engine where you want power up high, you think you'd want it more retarded.
Sometimes retarding it might the big blocks do not like to be advanced a whole bunch. They usually like the intake center line to be around the 110 to 112 mark, and it all depends on the cylinder head.
There's the chart. Don't look much like my charts, 900 horsepower. The lines always cross at 52, 52. In my case, they're usually on the right side of the graph. This time they're on the left side. How many RPM did we go there?
7,500.
7,500 RPM.
Right, 32.
932 horsepower. I've never seen that.
750.1 foot-pounds torque.
That's what you said it was going to make?
Yep.
Hey, welcome back to Gold Scratch. So we just made some polls on this engine. I'm going to hold the numbers, let these guys talk about it, but it's about twice as much power as I've ever made in my whole life. So I'll give you an idea where we're at here. So let me introduce everybody. First of all, everybody already knows Dale Waters, Waters Dyno Service in Springfield. And Bill Little has been on my videos before, and Bill Little is here to squeeze the last bit of horsepower out of this engine. We're not actually quite done yet. We made a few pulls. We've got more to do, but we want to get this part done. And Tim Blight is the owner. He's also the owner of Blue Electric in St. Thomas, Ontario. So everybody has to have a nickname, so we nicknamed him Sparky. So I think I'll start with Bill to talk about what he did in the tuning so far. We only made 3 pulls so far, but where we're at with the numbers, and then Tim can talk about his car and whatever he wants to say about his engine. So why don't you guys go ahead?
Okay, so we started out, I guess, with the carburetor. Tim brought me the carburetor, and it had been on the engine apparently and running. It had 86 primary jets, 87 secondary jets with no power valve, and that's pretty lean as far as I was concerned. We found a lot of corrosion in the fuel bowls, so Tim and I spent Friday afternoon taking the carburetor apart. Tim washed everything up for me, and we put new accelerator pumps and gaskets, and we started with 90 square jets because I thought that would be a lot better point to start at, right, Tim?
Oh, absolutely.
And so anyway, that was a carburetor. Now Tim checked the valve lash, and the valve lash was at what, Tim?
I had 30 and 35 cold.
30 and 35 cold. Now the cam card said quite a bit less than that. These 565s that I've ever done for the tractor pull applications, they like about 20 on the intake and 22 to 24 on the exhaust. So that's where we started. An aluminum head will grow roughly 4 to 6 thou as it warms up. So we run tighter lash to start with, but by the time it's at running temperature, it's going to be 4 to 6 thou more. We haven't checked that yet. So anyway, we started out, we made the first pull we made, so the timing was at 35 degrees. And I think it probably should be about 37 or 38, but we started there. So the first pull, it made, I better get to the measured torque, or the corrected torque. We only went to 6,500 to check out the fuel curve, and it was running way lean, but it did make 881 horse at 6,500 and 746 horse at 5,800, which is pretty good. Or torque, sorry, torque. Yep, thanks guys. It was using 1113 CFM at 6,500. Now this is only a 1050 Dominator, and people need to realize that a carburetor will pull a lot more air than what it is rated at, and that gets people in a lot of trouble. So always try to run a smaller carburetor if you can. It'll be a lot more responsive and run down the track better. The fuel, the brake specific fuel curve was it averaged 38.380, which is pretty lean. Now, these things should be probably 0.44 to 0.45. Now, the brake specific isn't always a measure of how lean it is. You can have an efficiency, a very efficient engine. NASCAR engines run at probably 33 to 34 brake specific, but this isn't a NASCAR engine. We want to make sure it's lots rich. So anyway, so the first pull we were that, and then the second pull we went up to 94 in the primary and 96 in the secondary. The dyno shows us fuel flow A and B, front and back, and the front was using more fuel flow than what the back was. So we ended up putting more jet in the back than the front to compensate for it, right, Tim?
We did. We still actually, I believe we gained a bit there compared to the
first pull. Well, that's the last pull. So
was that the last one?
Yeah, let me see here. Should have had these papers all sorted out here, but here we go.
Well,
so,
by the way, we'll put a screenshot of the dyno sheets in the video.
Yep.
We'll take that after. So Bill's narrating it now, but we'll let you see the exact numbers in the screenshot after.
So the second pull so we went up to 7,000 the second pull. It made 892 at 7,000, and we lost some torque as it got richer, but remember the timing is still at 35, and we can get the torque back with more ignition timing, but you always want to get the jetting right first. So it made 734 foot-pounds of torque and 892 horse at 7,000. So we took the carburetor back apart, and we noticed that it still wasn't using enough fuel in the back. So we gave it, we went up 2 jet sizes in the back to a 98 rear jet, and that's a huge hole. We made a pull at that, and oops.
We went to 75 too.
Yeah, and we also went up to 7,500. We ended up with 929 horse at 7,300 and 644 foot-pounds of torque at 5,700. And yeah, exactly. 700. What did I say?
744.
Yep. So 744 at 5,800. The brake specifics were 0.42, so we're going the right direction that way. I think there's still maybe a little bit more there. We're going to throw some timing at it, and after the timing and the jetting's done, we're going to do some cam timing. It has a belt drive on it, so I noticed that the cam's advanced 5 degrees, and I think we can probably retard that 2 or 3 degrees and probably pick up another 10 or 12 horsepower. So that's where we're at right now, right, Tim? And are you happy?
That's a lot of motor, man. That's a lot of motor.
Can't wait to smile on his face.
So before this, last week Tim called me and he said, I think I need wheelie bars. And I said, good idea. He's going to need them.
Definitely going to need them now.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. No, it'll make a big difference, that's for sure. It'll be night and day, right? I don't think, this is the first big block I've ever owned personally.
Okay.
And let alone raced, so, you know, the torque numbers, that thing's going to be an animal out of the hole with the right torque converter and gear setup and everything. It's going to be an eye-opener.
Change your chassis setup a little bit too on that thing.
Yeah, I think we're going to, I think Bill's going to have to come over and have a look at a few things.
I think Tim can take his big gear out of the back of it and probably end up with a 410 gear, maybe even a 390 gear in the back. And he's only going to need maybe a 42, 44, 4500 converter in it. So it's a lot different than the small block. The small block car had like a 5800 converter, and how much gear were you running in the small block?
It's got 534s in the rear of it.
Yeah, so
32. 32
so it had a lot of gear, and the Power Glide had a 194 low gear in it. So
you said that was a super stock transmission?
Basically, it has aluminum drum and
dead and bare case.
A dead and bare case and a good, it's a good transmission.
That car would go through the end of the track in the quarter run about 8200. It was just a screaming. It loved it.
Yeah.
But it.
So how high RPM are you going to bring this big block? We're not done making pulls here, by the way. So how high do you think we're going to go with this thing? It's still making power?
It is. We might go up a couple hundred RPM more, but in the car, it's probably not going to go any more than 7,500 anyway. So
There's the out of track.
That's a lot of RPM for a big block, guys.
It is. It is. But the pistons in it are light. It has a 4340 crank, H-beam rods, Wiseco 14-to-1 pistons, a bullet cam, cam specs at 50, 284, 296, and it's around the 800 lift on the intake and 770 on the exhaust. 114 lobe separation. Most of these 565s, that's a cam that almost everybody uses in it, whether it's bullet or comp. So anyway, it's going to be done by 7,500, I think, anyway. So, and it's got Dart 355 heads on it too, which has a 2.3 intake valve and a 188 exhaust valve. Now, the reason we run a lot more exhaust duration on it is because it still has a 188 valve, the same as what a 454 would have, you know. So to compensate for that, you have to run more exhaust duration to get rid of the exhaust, and that's why you always want the biggest intake valve, and you sacrifice the exhaust valve size, and you make up for it in the camshaft department. Gotcha?
Yep, that makes sense.
Tips you won't hear anywhere else, guys, that's for sure. So.
And we can verify that too for scavenging through the brake specific air consumption, and it's still down in the low 6s, high 5s. If it gets up into the 7s on that, then that's when we know that more of the fuel's going out the exhaust and not staying in the engine doing its job. Kind of thing. So.
Yeah, basically the less air the engine uses and still makes the horsepower is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And we're running like 114% volumetric efficiency,
Yep,
which is
114%, which is pretty good for these big engines. So
it's interesting what you were saying about the carburetor build. Like, you know, that the CFM, if I'm right reading this, it's saying it's pulling like 1200 CFM right there, and that's a 1050 carburetor. So that, you know, it's amazing. Rule of thumb, right? You always hear, oh, I want a big carburetor, 750, 950, whatever.
that proves it right there.
Proves it right there.
Yeah. And the nice thing about that too is when you're running a small carburetor and you're getting that airflow through, you're getting lots of velocity, so your throttle response is going to be fantastic.
You want it to be crisp, especially in drag racing at the top end, right? If you got to start whacking to get where you got to be for these guys, right?
That's right. Too big a carburetor hurts shift recovery.
Yep.
So if you have too big a carburetor, and when you shift, you want the RPM to come right back up as fast as possible. Small carburetor, the airspeed's still up. It's going to go fast.
Cool.
Yeah, by the way, since we made the first video, or last video with Bill at his shop, he's been to the Dutch Classic. He's got film in his camera, and we got to get Mike is not here today. Thanks very much, Alec, for helping me out getting this done. Mike Kimball's not here today. When I can capture him, we're going to Bill's to get the cameras together and put together the story of Bill's trip to the best classic in back. And he won his class in Super Stock. Bill's class was pretty cool. So
My first class win.
very nice. Anything else, guys? Daryl, what do you got?
I was pretty happy with the way everything turned out. We, like Bill had said, that we were quite a bit lean, so we're wanting to get the mixture up where it's supposed to be, where it's safe. We don't want to melt the engine.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. And we try and do that with everybody, like Bill said. We like to get the mixtures right before we start throwing timing in it. If everybody knows you put too much timing in there with not enough fuel, then you're going to melt things. So
That's right.
we always go that route first, and we're just about done on this one, and had a dyno failure, so we're going to have to address that first before we can do any more runs. So hopefully I can repair it. We didn't destroy anything terribly, so hopefully it's all good. We can do some more runs, and because I think there's still some more horsepower in this engine yet.
Yep,
Be
that's
kinda
my
fun.
guess. I'm pretty sure it'll make another 25 horse.
I'm thinking 950.
Yep.
Yeah.
930 already, guys.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's about twice as much as I usually make with my street motors. So
I think
pretty
Yeah,
cool sound
but-
listening to that thing scream.
Alan, it'll be 6 times the cost.
Hey, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's the other side.
Yeah.
I believe it. Very good.
So
Okay.
far it's been really cool. So.
Thanks very much, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. More stuff coming. Once again, we're going to make another video with Bill at his shop about this Dutch Classic trip. And the Corvette video, I'm not sure if it's going to be up by now or not. We'll follow up on that. And thank you very much for watching Gold's Garage.